No one trained you for this job, did they? You were probably promoted into safety. You were handed safety because you're the responsible one. You're the dependable one. You're the one that can take things on and get things done. And so now what do you have? Now you have OSHA logs, and accident records, and training. You got supervisors asking you questions about safety that you don't know the answers to, and you got corporate asking for reports that you don't even know what you're supposed to be reporting on. If this is how you feel, I've been there. Your heart's racing and you're thinking, what did I get myself into? I don't want any part of this. But here's the truth. You're not incompetent. You may be overwhelmed, but you are more than capable of knocking this out of the park and doing an outstanding job as the new safety person, the new manager. You don't need more OSHA regulations. You don't need more knowledge. What you need is clarity. And in this episode, I want to talk with you, friend to friend. I want to talk to you manager to manager. I want to tell you what I wish they had told me when they handed me the safety hat to put on with all my other hats. I wish they'd told me a guide. I wish they'd given me a guidebook to be able to do the job that they just gave me to do. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about 3 practical things that you can do right now that will get you way beyond where most new safety managers are. Let's jump in. Oh, hey, friend. My name is David Sawyer. I'm a safety coach. I help new safety managers, people that weren't trained to be safety managers, go from feeling overwhelmed to OSHA ready. I want you to feel confident. I want you to have clarity. I want you to have some peace of mind that you can actually do this job. And I'll tell you, one of the best things you can do is access a free OSHA audit checklist. If you go to my website, helpwithosha.com, you can access a free checklist today. And that will tell you exactly what you need to do to prepare your team and your company for an unexpected OSHA audit. It's not just a checklist, it's actually a video that you can watch that unpacks and explains how to prepare your team and your company in case OSHA comes knocking. It's a great first step to learn what you need to have in place so that you're prepared if OSHA shows up. Because the truth is, it's not really if they show up, it's when they show up. And you want to have a plan. This will give you a plan. Go to my website, helpwithosha.com, and access a free OSHA audit checklist. Now, for today's episode, this is gold. This is going to be some good stuff because I want to talk to you about the number one thing that I see new safety managers do when they get the job, they get the position. They start reacting to everything. They start sending out emails and putting in work orders, and they end up doing all kinds of movement, all kinds of action, but it's all reactive. And there's no plan. There's no clarity. So we don't just need activity, we need clarity. You need to know, what safety programs do we have? Like, where are we currently? What do we have now? You also need to have an idea as to when you do training, right? What have we done in the past? What did your predecessor do? How often was training conducted? Was it good training? Was it bad training? And something that goes along with the OSHA audit checklist, you need to know if your company has had an OSHA inspection, especially if they've had one in the past 5 years. What did they find? What did the company say that they were going to fix, and did they fix it? That's a big one. You see, you don't need to fix everything as a new safety manager. You don't need to react to everything, but you do need to have an understanding on where you are. So, one thing you can do to start out and get a good idea of where you are is to get your OSHA 300 logs under control. Your OSHA 300 log is a list of accidents that have happened at the plant. And you have to have an ongoing log. So if you say, hey, we're at the beginning of the year, we haven't had an accident, that's fantastic. You still have to have a log ready to go with the address, the date, being the year. You got to be able to explain this is the log for this year, even if it's empty. But then you should be able to go back in time and find out, are the OSHA logs complete? Can I put my hands on them? So many times I go in and I work with a new safety manager. And when I'm coaching a new manager, one of the first tasks we do, an exercise we do, is find your OSHA 300A summaries for the past 5 years. And I can't tell you the number of times I have managers say, oh, yeah, I've got those. Well, where are they? Show them to me. Oh, well, Tim keeps up with those. No, that's your responsibility. So make sure you know where your OSHA 300 logs are. You also want to have an inventory. You want to have a list of the written programs you currently have. So OSHA requires that you don't just train your employees on safety, but that you have written programs that go along with the training. So there's some industries that are going to have required safety programs. And you need to know what you have now so you can do an inventory and understand if you have what you need. Now there's some just standard safety programs everybody's got to have, right? I don't care who you are. You've got to have an evacuation program. So there's got to be a plan. What are we going to do? How do we evacuate the building, right? There's got to be a hazard communication program, which is about chemicals. Do we have safety data sheets? Do we have a chemical inventory? These are required things. It doesn't matter who you are. Every company has to have these. And another one is PPE. What PPE is required to be worn? Get clear on that. Don't just say, oh, I think it's kind of optional whether to wear safety glasses or not. There should be a very clear understanding. This is required. This isn't required. PPE should be in black and white. It should be easy to understand. So find out your programs, find out your OSHA logs, and then the third thing that you want to be checking out is something that you need to be doing every single day. And I would put it on your calendar. This is like when you put on the OSHA hat, this is one thing you have to do every single day. You have to walk the floor. You have to get out of your office. A safety manager that is confined to his office is not a safety manager. They're pushing papers around, and that's not what you can do. You can't do that. So trust me, friend, get out. Get out of your office, walk the floor. It makes a huge difference. You want to observe activities that are going on. You want to be watching what PPE people are wearing. You want to talk to employees and managers. Put a face with safety. The more that you build that camaraderie, that culture where managers and supervisors know you, they see you, they recognize you, it makes a huge difference. Now, this obviously has a big impact on how big your facility is. If you got a really small facility, you might already know everybody. But if you've got a larger company, you might want to break it into departments and walk the floor, different departments, different days, different times of day. And don't forget about shifts. Make sure you're walking the floor, on second shift and third shift even sometimes, so that your presence is out there. So those are three things that you can do today, right? You might not get them finished today, but get out on your whiteboard and write these three things down. The first one is, do I have my OSHA logs? Can I put my hands on them? Are they filled out correctly? The second one, what written programs do we have? What programs are we using? Is it just tribal knowledge? Is it just out of people's heads, or do we have it written down? And then the third thing, and this one, between me and you, this is the most important one. You have to walk the floor. If you don't do anything else as a safety manager, walk the floor, walk the floor. It goes so far into finding problems before somebody gets hurt. All right. Now, if you're feeling overwhelmed right now, if you're like, well, David, you didn't tell me how to handle, the corporate reports that I'm being asked for, or the questions the supervisor asking me, you have that feeling of overwhelm. It's because you don't have a system. You don't have a system, and so you feel like you're constantly in reactive mode. When people have anxiety, it's usually because they feel out of control. And you feel out of control because you don't have a plan. You're like, I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm freaking out. A plan will give you a sense of control. You've inherited some chaos. You've inherited a system that you don't know yet, you don't understand yet, and the uncertainty creates stress. But safety isn't about knowing everything. It's about building a system that works. And that's what I do with my clients. You see, I help new safety managers. I help safety managers that feel overwhelmed build a system that fits their company. And I do this with 3 phases. And I've done this with some organizations in as little as 90 days. But building a habit can take time. So sometimes I can put the system in place with the manager. We can work together to get the system in place at your organization, but it takes some repetitions to get it going. So the first phase that I walk people through is I say, hey, we got to do a safety assessment. We've got to do a safety assessment. The assessment lets you know where you are. Where am I at now? You don't say where we were a year ago. You don't say where we're going to be in a year. You say, where are we now? And so you have to do a safety assessment. That's when I mentioned at the very beginning how the biggest mistake that new managers make is they just start reacting to everything and they burn out. They wear themselves out. So we don't want to be reactive. We want to be proactive. I'll tell you a story, and this true story happened to me. Some of you know this, but I love boats. I love boats. And when I was a teenager, me and a friend of mine built a rowboat. It was a Cape Dory rowboat. It was built out of wood, and it worked out fantastic. It was a beautiful little boat. It was green on the sides. It was red on the bottom. It was named Molly after my very first dog, and a beautiful boat. And it took us 6 months to build it. And my friend had the expertise. His father was a cabinet builder, and he had the tools and the equipment. I had the finances because I bought the wood and I paid for the plans, and he helped me build this boat, and we built it together. And again, he had the knowledge, I had the money, and together we put this thing into action. And we both put a lot of hard work, and we finished it, and the boat was incredible. I've got pictures of it today, and this thing 30 years ago, it's like, wow, that was incredible. Maybe not 30 years. I'm not quite that old yet, but it's been a while. And the sad thing is, that boat got left when I moved. And so I left it behind a shed with intentions to come and get it. And when I left it behind the shed, the wood on the boat actually ended up touching the ground. It was turned upside down so it wouldn't collect water. We were storing it there. I think it even had a tarp on it. I was planning to come pick it up 6 months later. It had to be left behind the shed. But unfortunately, the wood touched the ground, and as it got wet with dew and moisture, the wood soaked up the water and rotted the sides of the boat. But here's the thing: when you flip the boat right side up and you looked at it, it was just like the top 4 inches of the boat all the way around the sides had rotted. right? So when I picked the boat up, I brought it to my parents' new house. I was like 18, 19 years old. And I looked at it and I was like, oh no, the wood rotted. And I immediately said, I know what I can do. I will cut that wood off and then create a joint and put new wood on the outside, and you'll never know. Now, keep in mind, I wasn't the boat builder. I was the financier. So I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew that wood needed to come off because it was rotten. So I got a skill saw, I got a jigsaw, and I spent, about an hour cutting this wood off the top of the boat. And when I got done, this boat that had a beautiful shear line beforehand, if you don't know, the shear line is the way the boat flows through. Beautiful. This boat's shear line was beautiful. Well, afterwards, the boat shear line was like this. Not beautiful. And then I had to figure out, well, how am I gonna put a joint on there and make the wood look better? Do you see what I did? I reacted to the problem. I didn't plan it out. I didn't have clarity on what I was going to do. All I thought about was the next step. I didn't think about the long term. And unfortunately, when I cut that wood off, I messed up the boat permanently. And it looked horrible. And it hurts. It still hurts to this day. Like on my wish list, I'm like, I want to build another boat. And I want to build it with my kids, and I want to build it right. Because I messed that one up. And sadly, that boat never got fixed. Because I went off to college, the boat just kind of sat there. Eventually, my parents got rid of it. They gave it to somebody down the road, and I'm sure he didn't fix it either. You cannot just react. You cannot just react. You've got to have a plan. A safety assessment is the first phase. You figure out, where are we now? Where do we want to go? And it helps you identify what you need to do next. Don't just react. Have a plan. Create a safety assessment. The second phase is, once we have an assessment, we set clear expectations. And the way we set clear expectations is through training employees, communicating with workers. When we're talking about, let's just pull a safety program at random. When we're talking about chemical safety with hazard communication, one of the expectations we need to set is that every single chemical container has a label. That's a pretty clear expectation. Now, the next thing is you go, well, how are we labeling? Are we writing it with our Sharpies on the side, or are we using a sticker? In the training, we say every chemical is going to have a label. We have stickers here. These are the stickers. Use the stickers. So we're clearly identifying this is what we're doing. Now, that needs to be done with everything. And this is this is the big phase, because we're establishing programs and training and setting clear expectations. This is when we start to prioritize. So in my history, in my past, I've worked in a lot of different industries. And there's some industries that have confined spaces. Well, that needs to be a program that we have high on the priority list. There's other companies that don't have any confined spaces. Guess what? We're not going to worry about the confined space program. That's going to be way at the bottom of our list. So prioritize where we need to focus our time and our energy. Where is someone most likely going to get hurt? Where have we had injuries in the past? That's how we help to prioritize our programs. Okay. Third phase. Build a safety culture. What do I mean by build a safety culture? It doesn't need to fall all on your shoulders. You might be the new safety manager. You might be the responsible one. You might be the dependable one. But safety is about communication and delegation. Make sure that you have a safety committee. Make sure that you have routine meetings with leadership. When your corporate is asking for a report, that is simply saying we want communication. Communication is how you build a system where everybody buys into it. So hey, we're all going to be rowing in this direction. See how I brought it back to a rowboat? We're all going to be moving in this direction. So building a culture is about establishing good communication. Now, if you want to learn more about those 3 phases, the safety assessment, setting expectations, building a safety culture, check out my stress-free safety workshop. You can watch the workshop online, and from there, you can actually book a call to talk with me, and we can see if my coaching program is a good fit for you. This is what I do. I help new safety managers that are overwhelmed so they have a clear path, a clear system. Safety is something you need to understand. But if you're a new safety manager, you don't need a 30-hour OSHA course. You don't even need a 10-hour OSHA course. You don't need a PhD in safety. What you need is clarity, and that's something that I can provide. I help I help safety managers through online coaching, give you a system. We map out exactly what you need to do at your company so that you know this is my plan. This is what we're working on. So that's what we want to talk about. We want to make sure that you have a clear plan, because the truth is, if you don't, you're going to feel overwhelmed. And when you're overwhelmed, you feel that anxiety, you feel that pressure, and you hate your job. You don't want to come to work. You're like, man, forget this. I've met with new safety managers that in the first 2 weeks they're excited, and 4 months in they look like they've been run over by a truck, because they're like, man, this isn't what I expected. This isn't what I signed up for. If you want help with OSHA, check out my stress-free safety workshop. Watch the workshop, book a call with me, and we can take your program from overwhelmed to OSHA ready. And we can do it in as little as 90 days. I'm looking forward to talking with you. Book a call and we'll make that happen. Until we talk again, do everything you can to keep the people you work with safe, because no one should get hurt at work.